4 games in the NBA on Thursday. Let's recap them all and let's all sit and commiserate as to how bad it's been to pick Victor Wembanyama at pick 1 in fantasy. Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and that's Aussie Gold, my friend, and don't you ever forget it. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok, at redrock_bball, and on Instagram, at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return. On FanDuel, new customers can place a $5 bet and get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Check out also LockedOnDaily.com and check out your favorite team's newsletter. We've got the podcasts, but now a newsletter covering all of the news for your favorite team, LockedOnDaily.com. You know what to do. You double bang, you thumb it up, and you leave those comments down below. We had bad performances, single-digit shooting numbers. We had insane stat lines. But unfortunately, we had a horrible, sort of out of nowhere injury announcement. Let's talk about that with all the action from Thursday, the last day of October in the NBA. We'll just start off with the news that Paolo Banchero is out at least 4 to 6 weeks with a torn abdominal muscle, a torn oblique. 4 to 6 week reevaluation period. That's bad, man. That is obviously all of November. So we're talking middle of December, maybe for reevaluation, and maybe a Christmas return. Oh, that's real bad. The question with this is, it's real bad, obviously, because Paolo was playing really well. But in terms of looking at this for fantasy, I look at it and go, I don't know. What happens now? Who starts? Because the obvious thing would be that Jonathan Isaac would start. The reason Jonathan Isaac doesn't play 25 minutes a night is not because Jonathan Isaac's not good enough to play 25 minutes a night. It's because he can't play 25 minutes a night. So maybe Isaac starts. I don't know. He could. He'd be interesting to add, but he's not going to play every game. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just roll him out for 30 minutes and he's been getting 14 minutes a night because they don't think he's good enough. I highly doubt that, but maybe. The other one that people have thrown out there is what about Mo Wagner? He doesn't play power forward at all. That is not true, actually. There's been a couple of minutes that he's played next to Goga Bitadze in the second unit, but I really don't think that Mo Wagner will be the starting power forward of this team. If he is, then we add him, yeah, without question. There's Caleb Houston. Okay, don't care. There's Tristan da Silva, who's played garbage time minutes. What I actually think the Magic are going to do here is I think, it could be more minutes for Mo. It could be more, or it could be Isaac. And one of the other things that I talk about a lot in fantasy, I talk about a lot of things, I'm not sure if you're aware, a lot of words per minute here, is that when a point guard goes out, there's usually a real straight replacement. When a center goes out, a straight replacement. Anyone who plays the 2-3-4, it's often 5 guys who get 6 minutes each extra. And I reckon we might be in that spot here. What I think they will do, will at least be the first crack at it, is Franz Wagner pushes up to the 4, if he even plays. And then you go with 3 guards. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jalen Suggs, and Mr. Black. But I also don't know. Black is big enough. He doesn't have the ball in his hands, but he can pass. It means that everyone else, Carter, Wagner, Suggs, KCP, are going to have to do more shooting-wise. There are just not many usage players on this team, though. Cole Anthony, I think he's going to have to come back into the rotation. They could, I guess, theoretically start Jett Howard, who's 6'6"-ish. But he hasn't been trusted to be a rotation player every night. They could start Gary Harris next to KCP. But I would say the obvious one is Isaac. But I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can play the minutes. They don't use Mo Wagner as a power forward unless they change their tune now. I think it actually will be Mr. Black that starts. Anthony Black. That's what I think. Now, Black might average 8 points a game, 9 points a game. But he could get 2 steals, he could get a block, he could get 6 assists, he could get 5 rebounds. It's enough to to consider it. But it is I have no clarity on it, obviously. We'll get clarity on it when they play. But that's sort of where I'm leaning. But you could have Black. You could have Harris. You could have Howard. You could have Houston. You maybe could have De Silva. You could have Isaac. And you could have Mo Wagner. Some of those are less likely than others. Absolutely. But it's no like, well, this is easy. This is the clear-cut replacement. I don't think. It further solidifies that if Wendell Carter is on your waiver wire, you add him. That's without question, right? That's easy. You add him. You could take the crack at Isaac. I think it's going to be pretty rocky. What I would do is go to Black, but then if we hear that Mo Wagner starts, we go to him. But it is terrible if you have Paolo. That's a long time out, man. And he was obviously flying. He was going to be a top 20, maybe top 15 points league guy. Probably a top 50 category league guy. Actually, Josh, he's hurt you in way too many categories. And he's probably more like a waiver wire guy. Yes. No, he would have. I think he would have had a really strong season, and we'll see what happens when he returns. Just brutal news, though, for the Orlando Magic and, of course, for our fantasy teams. What happened on the waiver wire? Who has been the most added and the most dropped players across the last 24 hours from a fantasy point of view? The most added, and remember, a lot of these ones are just the stream moves. Royce O'Neal, who's been putting up okay numbers, and the Suns played today. Kyle Filipowski. Larry Markkinen did not play. We'll talk about the Jazz later. Filipowski did start. We'll see how that went. We'll talk about it later on. Derek Jones Jr., another stream guy who's pushing to be a 12-team guy at least until Kawhi returns. People went and grabbed Ochai Agbaji and John Mobo with Scotty Barnes out. I would have taken Mobo over Agbaji. Now that we know that Mobo's starting, I would take Mobo over Agbaji, but they're both useful enough. And the other one is Zach Ricochet, because the Hawks have got everyone out. And DeAndre Hunter's still out on top of that as well. So, those, Ricochet, Mobo, really interesting 12-team league long-termers. I don't think that Markkanen's a long-term absence for Utah, but we tried Filipowski, and we'll see what happens for the next one. And that's sort of the way I think we've got to approach a lot of this Utah stuff this season. The most dropped players. Number one is Little Chungus, Nikola Jovic, totally okay. Not a must-roster guy at all. Andy Nembhard, we don't know if he's going to play tomorrow. He's got a questionable tag with his knee. He was sort of hovering, like the assists were making him marginally interesting. Everything else was trash. And now I guess everyone just thinks Ben Matherin's taking over full-time. I got no problem dropping Nembhard, totally okay. Bubble Champagne, I probably would have held him just because the Spurs played today and not many people did. And you get that extra game without wasting an ad, but whatever. Marcus Smart, injured, didn't play today. If he was playing today, I would have held, but that's a totally okay move. Caleb Barton stunk yesterday. Cool, move on. When George and Embiid are there, he's not going to be useful anyway. And then DeAndre Hunter, who remains injured. We don't roster him in 10s or 12s, 14s maybe when he returns. But we are obviously not at that position at the moment. We're going to get in and talk about these 4 games at the moment, or 4 games from today. The Paolo stuff is just like, it's just one of those like gut punches where you just don't expect it to happen. And then you look at it and go, well, I actually don't know how this is going to play out. Like, I sort of, I try and give you, and I do, give you my opinions on like 580 NBA players whenever anything arises. And I tell you when I feel confident about something and when I don't. And this is one of the ones where I go, I don't know. Black, Carter, obviously. Black, Isaac, Wagner. Probably my main candidates, and I would prioritize Black barely. But it just might not happen. It might not. But we're going to have a long sample size to figure it out. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and you're ready to tackle all of the action on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can go ahead and bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So, in the middle of the game, you might be getting a little tingle. What do they call it? The FanDuel tingle. That's not trademarked. Maybe it should be. And you see something happening. And it's like a beautiful mind in front of the screen. Well, instead of having to open multiple different apps to see the live play-by-play and the stats and the betting, it's all in one spot, which is so easy. So you can do your number crunching right there where it needs to be done. And if you are a new customer, well, FanDuel will get you started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, we're going to talk games. First one. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Memphis Grizzlies. I was going to say I don't know why I'm laughing, but I am. Because Doc Rivers is just bad. And I heard today that apparently the whispers are through NFL, stupid ad, through NBA circles, is that Doc Rivers is wresting control of player personnel. We've got 4 games on today. We can take a little bit of time. What does this guy do, Doc Rivers? What does he do behind the scenes that convinces smart people to lose their mind? What does he do? Because I've seen Doc Rivers coaching. I saw him coach last season. I saw him advise this team on what to do with Adrian Griffin. And by the way, I've got a good candidate here. Let me just go and get them as he does a 360 turn and turns back around. And I've seen him be a GM and coach for the Clippers. And it was horrendous. Terrible. Shout out to Bryce Johnson. Terrible. So, to be honest, Bucks fans do not deserve this. But the franchise does. They deserve to be terrible. They deserve to lose Giannis. If these are the decisions they are making. Because that is what does Doc do? How sweet are the words that passes through this man's lips with that soft and soothing, sultry voice? How does he convince people to do this? I will not know. I don't know. Is he petitioning the Bucks that he'll be the head coach and Lawrence Fishburne will come in and play Doc Rivers and be the GM? What is it? What does he have that makes this happen? I want that power. How does it happen? How? He's they lose again, by the way, in case you didn't get where I was going with this. The Bucks lose again, 199, 122 against the Grizzlies team with half their squad out. He's just terrible. The roster's bad. He's bad. It's all bad. Giannis had 37, 11, and 4 with a steal and a block. That's really good. He had 77 from the field. That's really good. 3 of 8 from the line is bad. But you also are well aware that going to be the problem with Giannis, and you didn't have any hopes that he was going to be good there. So I think we're okay. What you didn't think is that you were going to get an 8% shooting night. And I didn't misspeak there. 8. Actually, 8.3% for Damian Lillard. 4 points for him with 6 assists. Now, Lillard has been fine this season. He's been around that area where you picked him, around that end of the second round type of zone. That stinks. He still played 33 minutes, though. Speaking of stinks, started doing this about 3 years ago, Gary Trent. Get that garbage out of here. Why do people still think this guy's good? Oh, the CBA, mate. C.M. McCollum, Grant Williams. Absolute terrorists. How do the players allow this? You got a player like Gary Trent that has to sign for the minimum. Or he's bad, and that's why he signs for the minimum. I don't know. You can debate it if you want. Trent had 9 points in 18 minutes. He shot 33%. He's bad. Don't roster him. He's a stream guy because the opportunities are there, but should they be? No, they shouldn't. Brook Lopez had another 0-block game. He has the big ones. He has the 0 ones. It wasn't a great game, but it was okay, 12-3. While Bob Portis, after a couple of really monster ones to begin the season, has sort of pulled back down to be in the area that I thought he'd be, that back-end 11th, 12th round player for 12-team leagues where you go, all right, you have no upside unless players get hurt, but you're sort of just chugging along. The artist formerly known as Torian Prince got 4 steals. That's great, but he had 5 points, and obviously he remains terrible as well. And I don't know what happens now. I know that might sound like we're catastrophizing what they did and how bad they are, but they're bad. And you shouldn't lose this game. And they are, 1-4 now? With losses against the Nets, whatever this is with the Grizzlies. There's another shocking team they lost to too. That's really, really bad stuff. And, at least Doc Rivers has locked himself in for a nice little contract after, getting the other coach fired and recommending himself as a replacement. Good for him. The Grizzlies did have to make 2 starting lineup changes because both Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart were out. And it was Santi Aldama who started, and it was Jalen Wells. I thought we might get Wells in there, and we did. 36 minutes, 16 and 7 with 3 threes. Now, Wells, that's really good. Second round player. He's a shooter with not much more. But Desmond Bane is suffering from an injury very similar to Paolo Banchero's. I'm not here to suggest that Bane is going to be out as long as Paolo, but brace yourself. Like, it's possible. But we know the Grizzlies are incredibly transparent with all their injury updates. I'm sure any moment now, I'm sure we're going to get something happening right now in terms of like an update. Like, I'm sure that's coming. They're one of the best. We're going to get the clearest information with the definite 100% correct diagnosis with a very clear timeline. That's what they're known for. So just be patient. I'm sure it will come anytime. If you're in a deeper league, Jalen Wells has got to be considered. I don't think we're getting Marcus Smart back in the next game either. Aldama, 19-9. Now, by now, do you need me to tell you what happens with Santi Aldama? It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up and down. It's like your mum when she comes to visit me. Ayo. When the minutes are there, when Bane, Smart, Kennard, Conchar, Williams, Jackson are all out, sure. But that's not going to happen all the time, is it? So you ride it until it's over, like your mum, and then you move on later on. Scott Pippen played 27 minutes. He had 16 and 3. Wasn't his best game. He had 1 assist. But overall, again, while players are out, someone's got to play. And Demetrius Jamal Morant did that. 26, 10 and 14 for Ja in his 29 minutes. He shot well. It's been a weird season for him in terms of the minutes, but that's a really good game. LaRavia also is able to get things done when opportunities arise, 11 and 10 with 2 steals. And like he and Wells are stream guys until players return. Zach Edey played 24 minutes, so the playing time went up. Still on the block, he's okay. 10 and 8, like he's fine, but he's not getting big usage. He doesn't get big minutes. If you've got him, I've got no problem with the hold. But if you want to drop him, I've also got no problem with that. Jay Huff's little run looks like it's over.
Get that garbage out of here.
It's just very hard to continue to be productive in under 20 minutes. What I thought is that he might push to 22 or 23. He didn't. He pushed backwards, so you push him off the edge of the proverbial fantasy basketball cliff. Not real life. We don't do murders here. What else is going on in this game? Jaren, Jesus Christ. They won this game with Jaren going 13-5 and 2, no threes, no blocks, and shot 42%. And they won it by 23 points. Again, big shout out. Big shout out to Glenn Rivers. Let's go to the next game of the day. This was the Houston Rockets. They took on your mates, the Dallas Mavericks. Good win by the Rockets on the road, 108-102. Is your final score here in this game. Let's just move immediately to the delicate dancer, Alperen Şengün, because the last 2 games had been pretty poor. This one, not ideal, 31% shooting, but what we love is he had big usage. He played 35 minutes. He had 17, 12, and 4 with a block. So, that's crisis sort of averted. Jalen Green. Getting 12 rebounds out of Jalen Green is amazing. Now, he's been putting up really big scoring numbers with nothing else. And this one, the shooting pulled back, and that was likely. 23 and 12, 4 assists. The really hot start continues. I do worry a little bit about how he maintains this level of usage with the efficiency being up and down. But whatever, it's going well. Tari Eason played minutes over Jabari Smith towards the end of the game. Smith only got the 29 minutes, 14 and 6, while Eason got 15 and 4 in 19 minutes. Now that is obviously ridiculous level production from Tari third season. He had a block in that time as well. He shot 60%. It's really, really tough with Eason, though, to feel like a level of confidence. And again, how does someone do it in 18 minutes? In a 14-teamer, we're all over Eason very clearly. In a 12-teamer, it's okay to stream him in. But until he's getting 25 a night, I'm not going to feel super secure. The same with his excellency, Amen Thompson. 10 and 4, 18 minutes with a steal. He shot 80%. But 18 minutes isn't enough. Eason and Thompson are just guys that you hold and you wait to see if something shakes free. And it might, but it doesn't look like it. I'm definitely not doing that with Reed Shepherd.
Get that garbage out of here.
Or Cam Whitmore, who played 8 minutes.
Get that garbage out of here.
There's just not enough to go around for both of these guys, while Steve Adams only had the 10 minutes of playing time here, as Şengün did a lot more on this one. The Dallas side of this game, no changes to the lineup here. Let's look at Luka, another sort of hard fall on his elbow. He had 29, 5 and 2, and another bad free throw night. He took 25 shots, not from the line, bloody hell, from the field, 48%, which is good, but 2 of 4 from the line. And again, it just keeps illustrating. It keeps illustrating the idea of the one season of 78%, enabling everyone to lose their minds about, well, now it's fixed and he's good at that now. Again, not saying that he's bad, but he's currently sitting at 76.5, which in previous seasons would have had everybody in category league say, well, I can't touch him. You've got to punt free throws. He's very good, obviously. But it has not been a strong start to the season overall for where you drafted him. But no one has really panicked, which is great. Curry played 43 minutes here. 28, 8, and 7. That's a massive game from Irving. He has been very strong so far. And Paul Washington only had 6 points, as he is sometimes wont to do, and 3 steals and 3 blocks. Just adding the little defensive nuggets. That's great. He's been really strong the last 3 or so games. I was interested in drafting him in the later rounds. I still worry about the overall production, but the minutes are really, really good. Klay Thompson. It's just more of the same. Someone said to me, Josh, in one of the comments, he's only had one bad game. I disagree. I think he had one good game. And the others were like fine. They were like 15, 16 points and nothing else. And now we're getting the same stuff happen. 30 minutes, 12, 1-1, 39%. Klay is not a top 100 player so far this season. He's 126th in points leagues. In a shallow format, I don't think that's a must roster player. It just looks a lot like what we got last season. We got a lot of small ball in this game, even with no Maxi Kleber. Only had 30 combined minutes between Gafford and Lively. Gafford had 6 and 3 with 2 blocks, and he got 4 fouls. And Lively had 6 and 3 with a block, and he had 5 fouls. So that's why. So if you've got Gafford, don't worry. If you've got Lively, don't worry. Not much else, I don't think, going on with this one. But we're constantly on Luka percentage watch and seeing what we get out of Klay. Unfortunately today, it just was not very good at all. Today's episode is brought to you by the GameTime app. GameTime, the innovative legends, always bringing you something new. And it's GameTime picks now. It filters out the fluff when you're searching for tickets, so you don't have to go through all of the different options, the hundreds and hundreds of different tickets, to find out what actually is a good value. It just shows you the good stuff. And that just stacks on to all of the good options they've got. There's the views from your seat, of course. There is the event cancellation protection. So if an event's cancelled, guess what they do? You get protected. You've got the job loss protection as well. You've got the zone deals, the flash deals. Everything is there, but GameTime Picks is the thing that you really want to get behind when you go to watch your favorite team or see your favorite performer. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. With GameTime Picks, download the GameTime app, create the account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, now comes the time where we take a look at the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Utah Jazz. Yesterday's show, I had on the main thumbnail of it, people panicking or talking about panicking about Victor Wembanyama. In my mailbag show today, people were asking the questions about how bad it was. The people crawling from under, whatever they were under, to tell me about it. It was so obvious. It was so obvious you don't pick Victor at 1. How dumb. People, you're so dumb. You ruined your league. You ruined yourself. You're so dumb. Why would you do it? Just so obvious for everyone to know that you shouldn't have picked Victor Wembanyama at number 1. And then the very next day, Wembanyama has a 5x5. Does this mean that everything's fixed? Of course not. But it also just shows you how quickly things turn around. 25 and 9, 7 assists, 5 steals, 5 blocks. Took 20 shots, hit 45%, went 3 of 3 from the line. Cool. We all good now? We're not going to panic anymore? We're going to settle down? How could anyone recommend Wemby at number 1? How? I don't see. There's no logic. It's completely ridiculous to have him at 1. Josh, you're so dumb. You're dumb. Before we start typing stuff out, I'm not saying that he's finishing at 1 after this game. I'm not saying that the problems are fixed. But let's settle on the immediate 4-game reactions. Turns out, he's still pretty good. Chris Paul, on a back-to-back. Just a casual 19, 7, and 10 with 2 steals, just popping in the best game of his season. Now, it does help when the other team's trying desperately to lose. Paul should be on rosters. The pencil. I think my voice is cooked. Let's try it, though. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Oh, that actually was all right. Oh, are we back? Chat. Is this real? Barnesy has 8 points, 2 rebounds, and nothing else. one thing I know is that the real Harrison Barnes is actually back, and that's the one that we don't care about in 10 or 12 or 14 team leagues. The horse Keldon Johnson had 13 and 4 in his 28 minutes. He shot 30%, and we do not roster him in 12 team leagues. And I think we don't do it for old Buble here as well. Julian Champagny, 6 and 6 with 3 steals. The steals are nice, but I don't care. That's just a deeper league one. It's a stream for a day like today, obviously, and that's it. Not a good night from Jeremy Sohan. He missed both his free throws and shot 39%, but still, you know what? On a night where you shoot poorly, you go 11-5, 3, 2 steals and a block, I'll absolutely take it. Do not react and drop him, please. If he is dropped, Jeremy Sohan, I would add him without any question whatsoever. Steph Castle had 8 and 4 with a steal. We're not rostering him. There's a bit of an explosion from old mate Sandro Mamakilishvili here. 10 points in 11 minutes. Just keep an eye on him while the Malachi Branham had 6 points and 3 steals. He sort of worked his way back into the rotation, but that's because Devin Vassell and Trey Jones are both out. Well, maybe it's largely because those guys are both out, maybe not entirely. But yeah, it's happening at the moment. The other side of the equation is the Jazz. They actually went down 106-88 here, and with no Lauri Markkanen, we did expect that it would be Kyle Filipowski who started. Filipowski played only 20 minutes, but 12 and 5 with 2 threes. He had an assist. It's not the greatest line of all time. It's not. It's fine. It's not the greatest. I think that, if we had any indication that Markkanen is out, and honestly, I don't think he's going to be, Filipowski would be okay. So, if you've got him and you want to make a move somewhere else, that's okay. We got, finally, big minutes out of John Collins. 14-11, steal and a block, and they actually played him for a few minutes at power forward. Not many, but a few, which is better than what they were doing before. That is encouraging. I think we're going to see him drop back down when Markkanen returns, and this level of production from him in 22 minutes is not a reliable thing moving forward. Maybe I'm just down on him again, but they don't love him, clearly. He can put up stuff, but I just don't see it long term. We also got Drew Eubanks playing 20 minutes. He had 6 and 5 with 2 blocks. And we had Colin Sexton resurrecting himself a little bit. And I say that, but there was a reason. Like, Jordan Clarkson left the game early with an injury, and Sexton was able to do some damage in the final quarter because he barely played in the first quarter. In fact, Johnny Juzang was getting minutes ahead of him. These things happen. 16, 3 and 3 with 2 steals for Sexo. Like, it was trending very clearly the wrong direction. And then an injury happens, and it flips back. I still don't have any long-term confidence in the Jazz using Sexton in a particular way because they weren't. And this is one of those ones, again, where we're talking about the value of racking up some numbers towards the end of the game because the guy that was starting ahead of you, Jordan Clarkson, got hurt. Now, Clarko had 3 points in 21 minutes, which is a terrible return. And him and Sexton, I feel like, are going to be back and forward as 12-team league guys. Cody Williams started. Hopefully no one has him on 12-team leagues. 2 points. Missed all 6 of his shots. He is so far away. Like, we just do not do anything with that. He is so far away from being a contributor for fantasy leagues. He just is. Like, on the Sexton thing, he played the entirety of the fourth quarter. He had played 3 minutes prior to that in the second half. So he barely played. And then double check that. He didn't play all of the end of the third, but he got all those minutes in the fourth quarter when Clarkson was out, and then Keyonte George had a brief locker room trip there as well. Speaking of George, the continued panic again. If you drafted Keyonte George, were you expecting a very good shooter? Because if you were, I think you might have the wrong guy. Now, this is not to say that he's been a good shooter, but it's all about the way we view this stuff. George led the team in minutes again. George took 14 shots, which led the team again. George had 15, 4, and 5. Again, pretty good. He hit 80% from the line. But one of the reasons why, and it's probably less so now, but it used to be very, very popular or very, very successful, is a punt field goal percentage situation in the category league. Because one of the things that you will hear the bitching and moaning about from people is when someone has a bad night. Like, I got killed, Dame, 8%, killed me. VanVleet, which I actually didn't talk about before in the Rockets, which I apologize. If you do have Fred VanVleet, he was bad. The shooting was bad, but the minutes are there. Like, it's just, don't panic. But, oh my God, look at this shooting. 31%. It's terrible. Jalen Johnson, what a bust. Can't shoot. All right? You hear it all the time. And I will again put the comment out to you. What is the likelihood? Not that Keyonte George is a good shooter. What is the likelihood that Keyonte George is a 28% shooter? Because that's where he's at. 20% on threes, 37% on twos. What's the likelihood that's a real number moving forward? The answer is 0%. Want to talk percentages? It's 0%. He's still averaging over 6 assists. He's taking 15 shots. He's getting 4 free throw attempts. He's hitting almost 2 threes. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's annoying. A 5-game sample of shooting 28% is bad. Like, unbelievably bad. It is obviously bad. But it's not going to hold. I'm very confident in that. It is not going to hold. So, view that how you want. But we get the overreactions a lot when these sort of things go down. VanVleet and George, 2 of the biggest ones today. And I would not panic about them at all. Like, you're also drafting 2 of the guys who are projected to have 2 of the worst field goal. I think VanVleet had the worst projected field goal percentage impact of anybody in the NBA. So you're aware of that. It's just that it's below. Like VanVleet, back to that game, he shot 15%. It's horrific. Prior to today, he was averaging 6.3 assists and 2 steals, which is not far off what you wanted. Yeah, 8 assists would be better. But he's still playing 1 million minutes. Things are down a little bit, but I don't believe that it's anything close to panic on it. Same with George. The shooting is bad. But he's not a 28% shooter. And of that, I feel very confident. Walker Kessler, 6 and 11 for him with 3 blocks. That's fine. I wouldn't say that it's awesome, but it's fine. And he's, after that really, really huge game to start things off, he's cooled down a bit, but who cares? Like, he's been pretty good. This team, though, is going to be terrible. I avoided heavily Lauri Markkanen because of, I didn't think he was playing in March and April, but I didn't know that the nonsenseness would start this early, and it has. Let's do the final game of the night. The Phoenix Suns up against the LA Clippers. There was a change in the Suns starting lineup. Ryan Dunn was back in to start with Bradley Beal out again. I talked about Beal sort of clutching at his elbow, saying I think we might be a little bit worried about this one. And yeah, he was out again. Hopefully it's not like anything longer than this game. But yeah, he missed a game. He came back. He missed again. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple more out. Let's start with Dunn. He had 16 points. He hit 4 threes. He only had 1 steal. The shot attempts are good. Hitting the threes is awesome. You could stream him in as an option. I don't think that it's a must-grab type of scenario because I don't think there's 30 minutes here that are going on consistently for Dunn. But this was very, very good, and he's a very good defender, clearly. Wasn't the greatest Kevin Durant night. Wasn't bad, but he's continuing to play like literally insane minutes, and I don't know what's happened. Budenholzer's just changed his philosophy, and that happens. 39 minutes for Durant. He only had 18 points. He only got to the line 3 times. He had 18, 5, and 4 with 2 blocks. It's been a pretty good season for Durant so far. Well, Devin Booker's season has not been that good until today. 40 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals in 38 minutes for Booker. He shot unbelievably well. It was a huge game. It's also a very interesting development here with the Basmati man, Royce O'Neal. 21 and 7 with 5 threes, a steal and a block on 88%. I talked about him on, I don't know what shot it was, Waiver Wire show, saying, hey, he's trending up. They're playing him enough. I'm not convinced that he's more than a streamer, but I don't know. Maybe I am. Now, he's not going to be an 88% shooter, but he's getting a role. He's playing in the small ball lineups a lot. If I'm in a 14-team league, he's an easy add there. And 12s, I don't mind it. I don't mind a 12-team ad. I have some concerns about how that lasts long-term, but it's happening. It's not happening for Grayson Allen.
Get that garbage out of here.
2 points in 19 minutes, while Tyus Jones, 11 assists are invaluable. Not a lot else going on. 7 points there, but those assists are valuable. I guess the thing you want to hear about is Jusuf Nurkic. And the 2 games that Beal has been out have been 2 of the bigger minute games for Nurk. 11, 3, and 2 is not fantastic. It's okay. He doesn't look good, very clearly. But 50% from the field and 100% from the line is fine. We would have liked for a block or 2. No rebounds here either. It's been a bad start. If I'm in a shallow league, I'm okay with moving on. But also have a look. Who are you replacing him with? I think that's always going to be one of the questions when we look at drops. And if I say someone can be a drop, that doesn't mean drop them. It means, hey, consider it. You don't have to hold on for dear life, but like, who are you adding? What benefit are you getting? Like, if I could swap him for Wendell Carter, yeah, like I'd do it. Carter's role has been strong. Banchero is out. More security. I like it. If the decision is like, do I drop Jusuf Nurkic to get Chris Boucher, or it's to stream in Jalen Wells, I'd probably go, I don't think so. Because the long-term value is not there. That's really just going to depend on where you sit with your league. Like, would I drop Nurkic for Zach Edey? I don't think so. It's all just going to depend on what sort of things you're looking at and who's available and what move you can make. Like, it wasn't that Mason Plumlee outplayed him, who had 8 and 6 in 17 minutes. They just went small. And they've been doing that a lot. And I do think that is going to continue. So we are reassessing where we are with Nurk. I thought there was a chance with Nurk that Budenholzer would change a few things and get him working more offensively. And similar to he's not the level of player that Brook Lopez is, but I thought we'd be able to get something similar. We actually saw that in the preseason. And there you go. That's where we're at with Yusuf Nurkic. Anything else that I need to talk about on this Suns team as you call out and I can't hear you? Probably not. I think we're good. Let's go across to the other side of the game. It is the LA Clippers. They were valiant. Wasn't enough in the end, though. No change to their starting lineup. Jim Harden, no change to his production, really. 25, 10 and 13, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 threes. Yeah, he shot 42% from the field. Cry me a river. Like, it's okay. We're good. His field goal percentage hasn't been good. That's okay. His turnovers, they're high. I know that. He's absolutely cooking, though. Zubats, after one down game, 36 minutes, he had 22 and 12. Big game from him. The question always remains, is he a sell high? Like, sure, but also, I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure what he is doing here that is so ridiculously unsustainable. Maybe it's the shot attempts. Some of the field goals, sure. But I think he's going to have an absolutely huge season. Derek Jones Jr. was someone that I was looking at as maybe a 12-team ad, and I think we do it. 11, 3 and 2 with 3 steals. I'm not saying that it's going to be for everybody or it's going to be a long-term thing, but I like that. Well, Norman Powell copped a smack in the face. He returned, but he only got 31 minutes. He had 23, 2 and 2. Now, Powell is exhibiting all the major signs of this is great. Oh, as I hit the mic, this is great while players are out. And players still are out. Kawhi is out. But he does nothing else, Powell. So he needs a lot of minutes and he needs a lot of shots. And when they're not there, that's where we can run into trouble. Chris Dunn, like you streamed him for steals. He didn't get any. That's 2 games in a row where it's been bad. The minutes are fine, but it's very hard in 23 minutes to be a 12-team player. It's very hard. And that is why Dunn is not a must-roster guy. It was a solid night from Batum just by the fact that he got 4 blocks, but not much else we look at there. It was actually, to be fair, better night for Kevin Porter. 14, 5 and 2, but in 17 minutes. That doesn't really move my needle at all. Monstrous line of the night? I find it hard to give a monstrous line of the night when this man is such a massive bust, but I'll do it. Victor Wembanyama gets the monstrous line of the night. It was hard for me to do that. He also gets the young gun of the night, of course, because he's a second-year player. 24, 9 and 7 with 5 steals and 5 blocks. And he's still a first-round player on the season, despite the struggles and the bustness and someone telling me literally this morning, bro, what a waste of a pick. I regret it instantly. He's only a second-rounder. Cool. Let's talk waiver wire line of the night. Who is the best producer who is a waiver wire player? And it is the man himself, Royce O'Neal. Shooting was unbelievable. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 over 6 from 3. I think he's in the sort of Derek Jones basket. One of them starts, one of them doesn't. But O'Neal's been awesome. And if Beal remains out, I feel better. Beal out, O'Neal in. I feel a bit better about using Royce in that scenario. And I didn't think that I'd be a Royce O'Neal guy. I'm still debating whether I am or not. The dud of the night. Few candidates here. Who do you think gets it? Which inefficient point guard gets the dud of the night as I give you a bit of a spoiler? It's Fred VanVleet. He stunk. 4 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Well, 5 rebounds and 4 assists is not ideal, but it's okay. But 2 of 13 shooting, that's horrific. The difference with Dame is that Dame actually went 2 of 2 from the line and VanVleet didn't take one. Massive buy low. Don't drop Fred VanVleet, please. If I have a look at what the shooting numbers for him now is, I believe if he turned 1 miss per game into a make, he'd be back at like last year's numbers. That's all it is. I'm not saying that he's going to do that or it's going to correct. Or when it's going to correct. I don't know. But these things are very, very small margins that completely change our perception of what a player is doing. Let's take a look at the top 6 producers across the day on a very eventful day in the NBA. By the way, I still have no real idea or real clarity on what the hell is going to happen there in Orlando with the Paolo Banchero injury. I don't did Tristan Da Silva, do we throw his name into the mix? I don't think so. They don't play him. But there's just too many guys there. We're just not going to really keep an eye on it. I would go black. I'm just going to keep saying it. I would go black. I would probably go Isaac, then Wagner. But I don't know. Top 6 producers today. Number 1 was Wembanyama, followed by Booker, Harden, Morant, Yanni, and Kyrie Irving. Your top 6 producers who are available in the vast majority of leagues. Royce O'Neal, Jalen Wells, and Jake LaRavia. We all know why that happened. Ryan Dunn with Bradley Beal out. Nico Batum for the 4 blocks. And Kevin Porter Jr. The only ones that are really important there are O'Neal and the injury replacements of Wells and Dunn to later draft picks in the NBA draft. Your top 6 producers for Yahoo Points Leagues, it is going to be the same for ESPN, slightly different order though. Wembanyama, Booker, Harden, Giannis, Ja Morant, and Chris Paul. And your top 6 ESPN Points League players, Wemby, Booker, Antetokounmpo, Morant, Harden, and Chris Paul. And that is the end of the Thursday recap in the NBA. Eventful, big performances, depressing injury news. Hit a thumb up, though, to make you feel better. Leave a comment down below. And guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.